ABSL Summit. Beyond Tomorrow. Building a Sustainable Future.
Right now I have the pleasure to introduce the panel, which is called "Are we adapting fast enough to new technological achievements to ensure we are not missing current opportunities?" And as Wojciech rightly pre-announced already, he will be the moderator of this session. So Wojciech, please come back to the stage.
And please join Wojciech, Jan Berger, Senior Director of Digital Ecosystem and GE Healthcare. Hello, Jan. Bartosz Brosowski, Master Black Belt, LSS, MBB, EY. Małgorzata Kapral, HR Director at Fujitsu. Jowita Michalska, CEO and founder, Digital University. And last but not least, Adam Targowski, MRICS Environmental Director, Skanska Office Businesses. Have fun.
Okay, we started with a little introduction of British American tobacco. A very interesting challenge to digitize this business, and I really wanted to use and actually have a really open conversation with my distinguished colleagues in the panel to really focus on a key fundamental areas of digital transformation. So maybe the little reflection at the beginning. So if you look at the title, and I was a little bit fighting with my colleagues whether this is really the right title, because if I look at it, and very often once we discuss about technology, there is a notion of fear, right? Are we adapting fast enough, right? There is always something that is behind, and of course the way the technology evolves these days is probably very difficult to adapt, and very difficult to find the right way to define your strategies that will be supporting your business in the next 20 years. And this is actually the interesting challenge that I would like to pass to my distinguished guest, and especially I think first of all our panelists were introduced, but I really wanted to explain to you that we've got very interesting mix of panelists. So we've got Jan, who actually will talk a lot about how they digitize GE, and especially in the healthcare space. This is absolutely interesting, especially that the digitization and technology in the healthcare is really reaching the levels that we couldn't even imagine years ago. Then we've got Bartosz, who probably have done everything what is behind the Lean Sigma, can talk about the Kaizen and all these things that really started in factories, then adapted to the business services, and how technology will play the role. So that's very interesting context, very interesting experience. So I'm personally looking forward to get his thoughts. We've got Małgorzata, who will shed a little bit light and share perspective of the business function, and especially how the business function is engaged. And I think HR function is the one that is not always outsourced and pushed into the shared service in a first place. These things are changing, and it's moving significantly from the transactional support into digital and platforms driven. We've got Jowita, who brings very interesting context. It's not only around education, but she speaks to a number of C-suite executives, understand the the awareness of digitization and whether we are digital savvy in Poland and what we can adapt from the experiences of the other countries' businesses. And of course, last but not least, Adam from Skanska, who will bring the perspective on one of the I think most critical stakeholder of the business and how and whether these days the real estate, especially commercial real estate, is ahead of the business or is still trying to understand what business needs. And maybe, as my colleagues mentioned, just to engage you and of course test the digital savviness of this group, we will be using a little tools that everyone knows, Menti. And the first question, before we start discussing, of course, we want to know what's your opinion. If we can, maybe, has everyone downloaded the app? Did you manage to scan the QR code? Maybe we can repeat the slide with the QR code if possible. I know that you're a competitive group, so there will be at least 100 responses, so I'm absolutely sure. Let us know if, okay, let's maybe wait another 20 seconds. Okay, we've got some phones. That's good. Okay, I don't see more phones, so I think that we can move on. So can we move to the first question? That's a very interesting topic that is really discussed in the various panels. You know, who really defines digital strategies today? So as we discussed that briefly with Janusz, that the organizations are really moving from a traditional CIO top-down led organization where the CIO knew perfectly what business needs. And all of a sudden, very often the digitization and the transformation was pretty much led by the new releases of ERPs, and then business stakeholders were really waiting where is the next expensive release of SAP, Oracle, of another solution. So I hope that you managed to okay, I hear it's still not working. Technology. So we will definitely do root cause analysis. Okay. No. This is the leadership responsibility. This is leadership responsibility. I take responsibility. Does it work right now, or I'm really curious. Okay, maybe probably we can give the technology a couple more seconds, few more seconds, and then we. Okay. Let's at least when the system fails, we just need to go to we check to activate our business continuity plan that we were actually testing that for the last 18 months. Okay, so that's the slide. Maybe for the next question that will be solved. But what's in your opinion, who believes that the CIO is the one who defines the digital strategy and decides on spend? CEO. Who believes that's the CEO? Okay. Who believes it's CIO? Still. Oh, not too many. That's interesting. CDO, if that role really exists. Okay, there are not too many CDOs yet. Okay. Business. I can guess that we've got more business representatives than CIOs in the room. So then committees where you've got, you know, that forum of different leaders and nobody. Okay, it's not that bad. Okay, and with this little quiz, still run in a very traditional way, I would like to open actually the discussion, you know, because as I mentioned, the CIO, traditional CIO-led transformation is no longer the case, and I'm just very curious to learn more, starting with Małgorzata, who represents the very important support function. What's your story? What's your level of involvement in defining and especially spending money?
That's my pleasure to be the first one, and welcome everyone. So some of you probably might think what the HR person is doing on the discussion about the technology. And in fact, it's changed a couple of years ago already, and it is changing because of the people. And HR, me as being a representative of that group, is especially thinking about people, employees, and why we are changing. We are changing for people, thanks to the people, and for people. So we know why we are doing this digital transformation to, first of all, make our life easier, better, faster in terms of doing some changes. However, we have to also think about our employees, and this is what I would like to talk today about. So I do remember a couple of years ago when we've done that transformation. It was not that much about the digital that time, so it was absolutely different. We did not ask the business, we did not transform in a way that we now, not today, we know how to do it. We did not engage the business, and we did not know what kind of benefits engaging every single stakeholders can bring for us. And through the recent years, we went through different digital transformation. Also, I am trying to do the same in HR, even though I know some of you might thinking, yeah, the HR is not the very good example of doing the digitalization. In fact, it is. And when I am thinking about our employees, I am thinking about the way how really they want to work, how they want to change their working style. And I can share some examples, because I think we are here all about to also share some examples. We are really hiring very young generation. And those people, they really want to work differently. They really want to experience something new at the working place, and from the colleagues, from the organizations, from the managers. And recently, we introduced this gamification approach towards new employees, towards how they want to really not only work, but work through the fun. So how they want to work with the colleagues, with the managers, and spending the time doing some challenges, real challenges. And we really realized that people were all about such a changes, such a digital changes, because we had to also, as an organization, adapt. And here's the key. I think here it's the question to us whether we are ready for such a transformation. Because for those young generation, it was more than welcome to introduce this innovative way of working. But for the managers, for the community, it was a big step. They have to first learn how to work in the new environment, how to set new challenges for the employees. And this is just one of an example how we are proposing this digital transformation and how we are changing. And why we are doing this, because we are answering our employees' needs and requests. We are listening them. It's not that I, myself, or my colleagues on the leadership team, or anyone in the global structures came to myself and say, yeah, we are introducing the gamification as a new way of working with our employees. No, in fact, this was a voice of our employees. They wanted to the revolution. And that is how everything starts. So we are first checking what are our employees' needs, and we are then proposing together with them the solutions. So it's not us implementing the new techniques, the new system. We are doing this together with our customers, the same as our business is doing. They are also working together on some solutions, and we are doing the same. Whenever we have some new process, policy to be implemented, we are doing this with employees, having the consultation, and then we are working the best way of doing the new digital business.
Okay, so you consult, just to recap, so you consult with your employees, so you come up with some solutions, some options. You consult with employees, with your, let's say, stakeholders, including customers, and then you're using this process to get more buy-in to the change, and this is how you drive. And who actually owns the money? Who spends?
We all.
Okay, but is it CHRO decision? What's the role of CIO?
So this is our decision together. So we are proposing the solution together with our employees, with our stakeholders. Of course, the decision is made by the business. Okay. So there are processes, there are systems, platforms that, of course, we as an HR owns, and we have to, and we know that we will use those. However, for those digital revolution, it's always our decision, our HR and the business. Okay,
very interesting. So now I wanted to actually pass the hot ball to Jan. Jan is one of the colleagues who actually holds the digital in his title in a quite exciting company. So Jan, is it business? Is it CIO? Is it you? Or who is really leading the game these days?
Yeah, thank you very much. So maybe just to explain my role very briefly, right? I see myself in the healthcare space, right? Really being the intersection between healthcare and technology, being very often, right? That's pretty much my day-to-day job, a translator between medicine and healthcare, those professionals there, and technology, right? Pretty much in the digital space. Look, to answer your question, maybe I step back and say a couple more words about the healthcare sector, which is a fascinating market, actually, which is, from my perspective, maybe the only area where, when we think about digital health in particular, where you can wake up and you feel like you are doing something for millions of people every day, actually. Now, on the other hand side, it's also a very complex and comprehensive industry. And I just have kind of noted down a couple of interesting data points I thought that could be interesting for you to highlight how difficult it is and what challenges we face in healthcare today. So listen to this. Today, it only needs 73 days to double medical data in the world. 73 days. And I think that's from today just to early December. And then all the medical data is doubled. Massive amounts of data. We have 6,000 medical journals publishing 90,000 articles each and every year. There is more information in a so-called mammogram than it is in the telephone book of New York. Right? I don't know if there is still like a physical New York telephone book. And then also interesting, a radiologist, right, the doctors who read your medical images, so MRI, CT images, in a 12-hour shift, they read today around or approximately 50,000 images compared to 15 years ago where it was just 500. So massive amounts of data. In addition to this, what we also see, there are around 40 million medical errors each and every year. 40 million. And there are estimations in Europe that up to 350 people can die due to medical errors each year, right? Which is, I think, something like 2/3 of the population of Gdansk. So it's massive. So there's a lot that can happen. And then, in addition to this, and then I stop kind of highlighting the big problems we have, there's a massive global shortage on experts in the domain, right? On doctors in the different professions, nurses, healthcare professionals. Global shortage of around 7 million. And right, estimations say that in 2035, there will be like 14 million healthcare professionals missing. So a lot of different challenges. And look what healthcare systems, healthcare institutions are really looking for, especially when it comes to technology, when it comes to digital capabilities, is how can I improve my clinical, operational, and financial outcomes? And this is something that is driven, of course, by those people who lead, let's say, IT departments. In healthcare, by the way, we see more and more in health systems, we see more and more the role of a CDO coming up now, which is also very new. And they, of course, are the decision makers at the end. Those are the ones who kind of have the budget, the funding to invest. But I mean, we have seen examples in the past when only those people drive those decisions, it's not going to work. I mean, a good example is, like in the last couple of years, the implementation of so-called EMR system, electronic medical records in healthcare, in hospitals. And today we have the situation that on an average, a physician just spends 27% of her or his time with the patient, and the rest just sitting in front of a computer, typing in and entering all the data. So this was a decision usually driven by CIOs in the past only, and today is a much more collaborative approach. So what we do a lot in this industry is to really listen, right, as you said earlier as well, listen to employees, to the healthcare professionals, figure out what they need, give them even options to try, right, find and try digital applications for their workflows and processes, similar like in the B2C business, similar to the App Store and things we use on our private phones. So I think it's really a shared decision making today, and but still there's a lot more to do going forward.
Okay, that was quite interesting perspective, especially that you really focus more on the industry, not much on your organization. I think we are now moving quite nicely to the second point, which is really around the data, right? And the wealth of data and access to information is unlimited this day. And I think that the biggest challenge we face is, and it's not only in the organizations, but also we as citizens. We don't really know how to prioritize, how to filter, how to actually deal with the fake news, and also, you know, with different threats that incorrect data can also bring. I really wanted to ask the question to Jowita, because you speak to CIOs. You also have a good understanding on the education level in digital in Poland. In your opinion, based upon your experience, first of all, what's the role of data? And we can not only focus on Poland, but Poland is probably the good example. What's the role of data, and what's the limitation if we don't have education? If people are not aware, what are the risks and what are the threats? And if you can look at this a little bit from a broader context and also move a bit to the corporate world, yeah?
Okay, thank you, Wojciech. To answer your question, I'll maybe start with the first one a bit.
Okay.
Because our role at Digital University is a little bit different, because we rather, let's call it, we go with the organizations through their digital change rather than we digitize ourselves. So I have a lot of discussions about this, and I have a lot of views into different types of organizations, how the digital transformation goes. So answering the first question, I think the first phase of digitization was definitely CIOs, but those CIOs are different today than they used to be like 5 years ago, because they were very traditional 5 to 10 years ago. If you asked about the cloud adoption 10 years ago to CIOs, there will be panic and no one would accept this idea. Now it's completely different. But I think, and I'm happy that we have Małgorzata with us, that in this phase of digitization we have now, the biggest responsibility goes slightly from CIOs to CHROs, because in most of the organization, we already acquired proper technology, or we are in the process. But if we stop at this phase, I like the phrase that Professor Andrew McAfee uses. So if the company has the technology, but culture and people are not prepared, he calls these companies digital fashionistas. So, which means that, okay, we have technology, hello, but it's not in the DNA of the organization. To have it in the DNA of the organization, which also means being a data-driven organization, means that culture and people have to be also be on the same side, which is not that common in understanding in the organizations today yet. So I think we are currently in a phase that we also, as Digital University and as Singularity University globally, because we are also a part of international community of Singularity University. So globally, we've started a special event for HR directors, which is called HR Revolution, because a few years ago, we decided to help HR directors to understand more what technology can bring to their business and how they should influence the organization to help people go through the digital change, which is happening. But as we can see in the organizations, how many organizations you know when they have HR person on the management board level? I don't think there are many still. So we have HR people mostly responsible still for those basic things, but not as a strategic people within the organization. It's still rare. And I remember discussion with one of the CEOs of the really huge companies, like three or 4 years ago, and he said to me, like directly, but how do you define Jowita? What is data-driven organization? Like really, because like we have data everywhere. Like my CIO is coming with data. My marketing people are coming with data. That sometimes those data are opposite to each other. You know? So when will I understand that my organization is data-driven? So I think we have bigger understanding of what data-driven organization is today, which means that we have to have to, let's call it, understand it as one organism, not separate silos. We have to start breaking silos and use the same data within the whole organization. And if we take into consideration that then within the next 10 years, almost 40% of data will be real-time data. So we really have to do a lot of work from the moment we are now to become a data-driven organizations, because this will be a key to real customer experience, to building right products, to everyday communication between, for example, CIOs and the rest of the business, and so on and so forth. So it's from my perspective.
Yeah, that's a very interesting context, and especially I would like now to ask Adam. First of all, answer my first question. Who is the boss? Is it CIO? Is it CDO? Do you have these roles at Skanska? Right, and I know that you as a company, at least from perspective of our sector, you're very much customer oriented, and then a little bit more into the data context that we just discussed. How do you plan, or actually how you are using data to differentiate in this relatively commoditized business?
Yeah, thank you. So answering to the first part, we are a global organization, but in the same time, we are quite decentralized. So we have global initiatives. We have a CIO position at the global level, and there are some global initiatives driven. But I would say that's a small share of all the initiatives. And then when it comes to the real efforts we put, it is exactly as you mentioned. We are very much customer focused. So when it comes to digital and other efforts we put, it is definitely driven locally. And I would say I represent Central European Business Unit. So I would say even within the 4 countries in Central Europe we're present, the markets are different. And one can say that we're all human beings, so we expect the same nice office space, we expect the same working conditions, but actually that's not really true. So the common thing is that we as human beings, because what we provide, what's our product, is the space for you to do your business. So our role is to develop, to shape the space that will let you actually not really think about it, but be sure that while your people are at the office, especially nowadays, you don't really have to think about making sure that they feel good, that they feel healthy, and that the time they spend at the office, that quite often is more than 8 hours, is the time that contributes the health and well-being, not the other way. That means, and that implies very decentralized approach. So we are very much project-based. I wouldn't call it a committee, but let's say on some between the projects level, some group of people scrutinizing that, and if it works, supporting that. So I would say that's quite efficient approach, and one of the examples I would say we recently introduced is so-called Connected by Skanska. So we have developed internal system for our office buildings in order to collect the data, and I would say mostly in order to let our clients make informed decisions. Because as I think one of you already mentioned, data, while not used, is worth nothing. So there is a lot of expectation when it comes to flexibility nowadays. But within the expected flexibility, I mean, flexibility is needed to be able to quickly make decisions and change the direction, right? But how to use this flexibility efficiently, right? You need the data. So it applies to the data related to office space usage. It is related to the data that comes about the ecological footprint. So I would say when it comes to the data that we collect and we are using more and more, because obviously I believe that the statistics that was brought in the previous presentation, 12 to 13 and 50, would apply also to us. So hopefully I'm not the only one who can say that, but definitely I can see 3 areas where we are doing a lot. One would be the human beings, as that's the core of our business, to provide the greatest experience at the workplace. Second one would be the climate, because as we all know, it's pretty easy to do things thinking short term. So not taking into account the cost of the resources and the potential debt we generate. And the third one, last but definitely not least, would be the disclosure and the platform for cooperation. So we don't want to develop competence in data analytics for all the purposes inside our organization, but definitely to create the platform, and that's something that is happening, in order to be a partner for the other organizations, for our clients, to work on this data and to utilize this data for their purposes. So.
And this is actually, thank you. This is a very interesting example when you don't have a, one fit for all, and especially in the companies like yours, where you're very much, project-led, investment intense project-led. You've got the light layer of CIO on the top, and you pretty much diversify and lead that you can actually deliver unique, tailor-made customer experience using the digital tools. So that's quite interesting. And trying to recap on this topic, I will probably Bartosz is wondering that, oh my God, I will not get any questions. So, but actually that was on purpose. I wanted you to a little bit recap in the end, because you represent in my eyes the traditional function that years ago was actually incubated in the factories, then replicated to the business, and actually the operational excellence function that was existing for years in the centers of our member companies is now evolving and being replaced by the digital excellence, right? So what's your perspective, because you're also involved in the education in this particular subject? What's the demand today on the traditional Lean Six Sigma skills, and to what degree they are prerequisites to truly lead the next stage and use the tools, technology to digitize?
Hello. It's not the case of Lean Six Sigma methodology or skill set. I totally agree with my colleagues before that strategy and elements of strategy should come from each place of organization, from the board of directors through senior manager, and also from individuals of business. But from my perspective, from my few years of experience, acting on board between IT and business, I have lots of doubts. Is it business prepared to transformation, prepared to digitalization? Because as we said before, IT is able to see the horizon, is preparing in toolkit, is preparing in vision in most of cases, but in some of cases the business is not prepared to be step by step after the IT. And I heard a lot, and I see it in RPA area for last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, that we buy a great tool, great platform, implement, wow, in 1 month it's greatest rollout in business, but then the platform is not usable, is not utilized via business, and it's so popular, so that I saw, oh, me too. It's so popular that I heard a lot that IT with his toolkit is ahead in most of cases between business and business. I mean, normal operation is not in the same level of maybe not engagement, but competencies model. Because in most of business, our leaders stay at the administration level. They administrate the business, not deliver solution, not deliver the changes, but administration the business. And that's the main role for HR, for people like Gosia, to burn the engagement, to utilize the high pods, to make changes in sometimes in people minds, to be at the same side at IT, and that's the problem which I observed a lot in business, being and acting with business and IT in the same time. And in RPA for the last 2 or 3 years, there's a very popular headline like democratization of IT. That's a very funny statement, because business said and think that they try to do business without IT, And it's not possible. It's not possible. IT has his own infrastructure, his own, I said. IT has his own solution and his own. It's not his own, but a solution for business, ICT for business. And business sometimes fighting with IT, something like this, then don't remember that we are the same side. And business should come a little bit faster to with knowledge, with imagination sometimes, to reach the level of IT. That's my opinion.
Okay. I wouldn't expect any different perspective knowing your background in technology, but probably the message to to our audience is that don't ignore IT.
Exactly. The democratization of IT, it's not ignore IT, it's not avoid IT. No. Because the business, we said about agile project. Oh, it's a great idea, agile project.
Perfect.
But at the end of agile project, without IT in business, we still meet with IT to implement the great solution, produce in business with IT on ICT.
So thank you, Bartosz. We still got a couple of topics to cover. At least, just wanted to give you heads up what we still discuss. First of all, I really wanted, and I think that would be extremely interesting for you, that we can really, in a very quick, brief responses, if you can share what's your experience around how you source the innovation? What's the source of innovation in your organization or the organization that you work with? And what's the best sourcing mix, right? Because we know that we will not invent everything our own. That would be probably the beginning of the end, taking that assumption. So what's the source of innovation that we can really relate to the headline of our meeting? Are we adapting fast enough? How we can adapt fast enough? How we can adapt to the change? How business can understand? How do we source innovation? Jan, very briefly.
I try to be very quick. So look at GE Healthcare, which by the way is a global medtech and diagnostics innovator. And what we really do each and every day is we try to help physicians provide the best care possible. And look, in terms of innovation, of course, there's a lot of things happening in-house at GE Healthcare. But as you rightly said, there are so many things that need to be done in the digital space, especially in healthcare, right? There are so many different areas to work on, right? Healthcare is years behind other industries in terms of digitization. We also need to look to the outside. We need to look to partners. And just one example for this is, right, the space of artificial intelligence. I don't know if you read something about the newspapers about this, but this is one of the buzzwords in healthcare today. There are hundreds and hundreds of startup companies from around the world building algorithms, right? For example, to detect, diseases in your medical images and so on and so forth. And what big companies such as GE need to do, and what we do is partner up with these small, innovative companies, provide a platform for them, provide for them, let's say, not just a platform to develop, right, but also provide a commercial platform. Because
where do you find them? Where do you find them? Because I think that colleagues here in the room would like to advise. Where do you find them?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, first of all, it's relatively easy to find them because healthcare is a highly regulated market, and those players who bring solutions to the market are pretty well known, let's say. And one of the things we do is we run startup acceleration programs, corporate accelerators, meaning that, okay, we go out with specific healthcare problem statements that have been developed between GE Healthcare and healthcare systems or healthcare institutions. We kind of show those use cases or problem statements or innovation themes or areas to the startup ecosystem, request them to apply to our acceleration programs, and then we onboard them, work with them, and hopefully together bring products to market that benefit healthcare.
Okay, thank you. Jowita, what are your insights?
I would highlight a few areas briefly. One thing you will always find innovation not only outside your organization, but also outside of your business. So look outside, because we are mostly focused on what we do within the organization. Second thing is flatter structures, because they are faster. Third thing, I would say diverse teams. Innovation comes from diversity. We have to remember that. You know, I'm also, my second leg is on EKF, on European Financial Congress. So it's like less than 10% women. And I would say leaders. Leaders giving a great example of how to being open to change and adapt fast.
And allow to fail. Yeah?
Yeah.
There is a permission to fail. I think that this is still the biggest challenge.
And experimentation, which comes, everything, all of this comes from culture. So we have to really work strongly on defining and implementing the new way of thinking about culture. So that's from my side.
Okay, what is your opinion, Bartosz? Bartosz, very briefly, if you can.
The same situation as in strategy area, from each place of organization. From the top of organization, of course, because senior is wide viewing of business, looking outside, looking for a new idea, in environmental, in competition environment. Of course, from senior level, and of course from each individual, and this imagination at work on each level.
Okay, this is actually focused on the right mix, yeah. And the next topic that I think is very often neglected, discussing the technology advancement, are the aspects that are a little bit beyond the P&L. There was a one question, but I'm not taking another try with Menti. Apologies for that. But I really wanted to ask the. Does it work now? Oh my God!
Let's use it.
Let's give it a chance. Okay, let's give ourselves a chance to fail or succeed. Okay, can we get to the question around? Can we move to the second question very quickly? No, that's the third one. I think now we focus the third one. We cover this one because the third one is, I think. Okay, what's the most important driver to implement technology innovation? And that will be a segue to the last theme around the famous, recently famous, the ESG themes. Oh my God, does it work? Okay, let's maybe wait 10, 20 seconds. That will be very interesting to see. I keep forgetting I have a screen in front of me. Okay, let's publish the results. Okay, so probably, okay, very, very interesting. I don't know how many results. So actually, this is a very interesting question. I think we might have different views in a panel. Of course, let's not ignore the profit because you know that's on. I'm not surprised that I see it. I'm not surprised that we have customer experience. I'm really surprised that wellness of employees is so low. There is a lot of research that if we focus, and I think Gosia can also share her perspective, that's really truly focusing on your employees in the first place can actually secure your top and bottom line and also deliver excellent customer experience. But of course, I'm also glad to see that environment, social, and governance aspects are also important. So now, very quick round in the panel, and I ask a couple of questions. First of all, maybe a bit recap on the ESG. These are the outside of P&L activities that companies are actually driving to differentiate. And also in the technology space, it's absolutely critical because technology advancement can also create the poverty, right? Look at I'm not going to use the names, the different applications that revolutionize the accommodation and housing, right? That you can rent apartments by days, by hours sometimes. But this is what is possible, and actually it's raising the prices of housing, and there is a lot of people who are homeless. Yeah? Look at the San Francisco, where a lot of native people had to move out somewhere into North Carolina and live in the streets because they cannot afford basic flats. Yeah, and that's why, you know, this is maybe one of the examples. We can mention more of them, but what's the right balance? Is it in your organization, and also I'm very much relating to your personal beliefs and experience, to what degree it's just marketing that companies are using these elements of building the differentiation just to look good, but to what degree in your experience, in your organization, this is a real thing, and we also as this community should truly focus on this. I would start with Małgorzata.
Thank you, and I do believe, and I hope why people might vote for the customer experience. Normally I would also probably vote for this one, even though an opposite was the well-being, because for me the customers are also our people. So normally I will also vote like you did mostly. And I do believe that through those technology and the new system, processes, platform, we can improve not only our well-being and our employee experience, that we are experiencing that it is crucial. And it was mentioned by my colleagues that's why we are transforming. So once we will transform and do the transformation for our peoples, it will become that we will make the better world also for our customers. So from my perspective, this adaptation and introduction to this digital world is first of all to open our employees' minds so that they can do things differently also for their customers and the services they provide to everyone on a daily basis. To be a little bit open to what can happen next, not to be afraid, because showing that we can change it internally will also give them a power to also prove that we as an organization, we can change and we can adapt to the new reality.
Thank you for this perspective. So Jan, I know that in your business, your industry, there is a special context where anyone who is processing the sales order should be aware that probably there is a patient somewhere waiting for his life being saved. I know, and you mentioned that very briefly, ESG at GE.
So look, I mean, the solutions we build, right? One thing is very important, that they work and that they are trusted by the users that are using our solutions. So, right, also to see customer experience is really good to see from all of you, because this is where we really start when we build our solutions, right? Also, by the way, with partners, with third parties, with a larger ecosystem, we always focus on specific problem statements and use cases. Look, if I may, I just want to add a few words to the digital inequalities you mentioned earlier, if I may. This is a massive issue in healthcare. What we try to do with digital solutions in healthcare is to get to better quality, to lower the cost of healthcare, and to achieve better access to healthcare services. And digital inequalities, this is something where the industry really struggles today, because in a lot of, let's say, less developed countries where we could make a massive impact to healthcare, we just cannot implement digital technologies because we don't even have the infrastructure and the basics. Another thing in that aspect is the elderly population, right, which we also should reach with those technologies, are just not ready for it, really, right? So those are things where digital divide, digital inequalities in the healthcare space are a big problem that the industry has to tackle. I just want to mention this.
Thank you, Jan. And I would like to ask now Adam, because you've got environmental in your title. So I think it's truly the demonstration that you guys care at Skanska about this thing. So very briefly, we're pretty much on the top of the scheduled time. So what's your perspective?
I would say that definitely I wouldn't agree with something that you mentioned a while ago, so that the ESG is a part of P&L, because I would say maybe that's the first stage for a lot of companies. So before we really enter into ESG aware operations, we grasp ideas here and there and do a little bit of marketing around that. But I would say that's the first stage for the most companies. And then it's becoming actually integrated part of the P&L. So because this is the way you do your business. It cannot be on a long-term run. It cannot be done separately, because then you won't really use the benefits of it. And I have mentioned disclosure of the data, and that's something that is very much emerging across all the value chains, I would say. And there is a lot of data to be utilized, because the climate change, for instance, a lot of companies among us sitting here, I believe, is having climate targets, and if not having yet, will have in next months, because that's expected from the stock market. And to get there, actually, we need to collect the data, we need to exchange the data, and we need to foster collaboration with the quicker, faster, more efficient feedback from one company to another, how we can do things better. And that's how I see ESG, and that's huge room for the data, and that's very much what I am into at the moment.
Thank you. And the last comment, Jowita. Last one. It's red.
Yeah, that's why I was like scared about this red. So, in terms of ESG.
Yes, ESG. The role of ESG.
Yes, I fully agree that it's like before EU regulations, which happened recently, it was part of PR mostly, and companies were, I don't know, like, we are the adults, we already understand that either big techs or big corporations, they don't make world a better place in the first place. So the next step is like having all those PR things. But I recently had an interview with one of my colleagues from New York, Christina Dolan, who has written an interesting book about the ESG, like it was like a month ago. And she said that in most of the companies in US, it's obvious today that ecology as such is a crucial part of digital transformation. It's not only PR, it's not some outside stuff, but this is an important part of going through the digital trends. That, I think, if I have a chance to say the last word in this panel, I would leave it like this. Let's think about it this way, that we create the world for ourselves. So.
Thank you so much. And just to really recap in the 30 seconds, the key takeaways I see from our discussion with Janusz earlier and with this panel are the following: that first of all, the digital and digitization should get right exposure on the leadership levels, that we should really empower this agenda on the board levels. The second one is it's not only CIO, it's not only business, is really the collaborative approach, and there should be committees and forums that truly decide and build the awareness, where the CHRO and the HR organization is playing even more important role than before. And the last point, I really like the last comments, that first of all, let's change the mindset that ESG is already part of P&L. I tell you, it's not the common view, but let's think that way. And actually, the ESG is also prerequisite of the successful digitization. So thank you for your participation. I think that we at least gave you a couple of ideas to think about and explore more. But thanks a lot to my distinguished panelists and for your time. Thank you.
Resilience, maturity, talents, growth, innovation. The change made us stronger. This all made us sustainable. ABSL Summit. Beyond tomorrow. Building a sustainable future.